and thank you for joining us today in the Esri Emergency Management webinar series. Today you will learn how to access and visualize WebEOC data within ArcGIS Online using Intermedix's new WebEOC ArcGIS extension. My name is Ivan Connerman, and I manage our state and local government public safety team. And I'm very happy to be joined today by Matt Cronin, our partner from Intermedix, and also Jeff Bronny, our Esri Emergency Management Technical Lead. So please follow us today on social media and going forward, and also feel free to comment about the webinar. So the agenda today is to go through the webinar series purpose, give you an overview and introduction to ArcGIS Online, introduction to WebEOC, talk about the new extension, talk about the user community feedback we've gotten so far, also give you an update on ArcGIS Emergency Management and Disaster Response Program. And then we'll wrap it up with some next steps. So the purpose of this webinar series is to provide updates on using ArcGIS for emergency management and disaster response from our public safety team. Today, we're very happy to have that include Intermedix, our great partner. So this call is on a regular cadence. So the webcast will happen about the first Thursday of each month. And our topic for next month will be getting started with situational awareness solutions. So the topics will vary and cover a broad overview, or they could be a little more focused. Also include updates from our disaster response program. And we're open to great ideas from the community. So if you've got something you want us to cover, please make sure you let us know. Again, today's topic is accessing and visualizing WebEOC data within ArcGIS Online. So we want to welcome everyone from their two different user communities. I think this is a great way to pull two different user sets together. These are two great platforms that often coexist, and now we've got an opportunity to have these work together to bring much better situational awareness for our mutual users. So to help everyone, what we'll start with is a quick baseline of our companies and what we do. So Esri has been around for almost 50 years, and our purpose is really to advance the science and the application of GIS. We do this in a number of ways. We create world-class products, what that's called ArcGIS, and those run on server and desktop and mobile applications, SDKs and APIs. We also create great educational and support options to keep our customers up to date and to answer their questions. We've also got professional services who can help customers with particular projects that they're working on, and we've got a fantastic community of partners who can enhance ArcGIS with particular capabilities. We're a strong and growing company, and we've really focused on making a difference and contributing to society. So our product is something called ArcGIS, and ArcGIS is a really foundational GIS platform that enables anyone to use digital maps and spatial analysis to answer questions. This integrated system pulls from authoritative sources of information like WebEOC, and does so in real time to ensure that people are getting the best understanding possible to make decisions. It provides a way to manage that information both internally and externally, so any individual has access and can easily find the right information. This becomes available on any device, anywhere, and anytime through a number of COTS applications. So how do you get started? Get started by simply going to arcgis.com and logging in. This is really built to work the way you work, with nothing to install or set up, so you can be productive right away. Just sign in and get instant access to ready-to-use maps and applications, or create your own. A lot of departments, agencies, and different governments have this set up and are taking more and more advantage of it. So how does this work? This works through something called WebGIS, and this is not necessarily just GIS on the web. This uses live information sources through Portal and ArcGIS Online to create specific maps to answer a specific question. So it's really like a map recipe. It's got pointers to the live information sources that make up that map. Data stays at the source provider and is called up each time that map is displayed. So web maps are really a way to organize geographic information around a specific issue. So where are these authoritative sources? Well, fortunately, they're pretty much everywhere. You've got lots of internal lists, probably, information from other departments, perhaps sensors like stream gauges you want to use, federal sources as well. And then you'll see you have access to traffic imagery, and base maps from Esri, as well as other data from the ArcGIS Online community. And now we're very happy to announce that WebEOC boards are available. So your own internal source of operational awareness, shelters, significant events, etc. So what does a web map do? It allows you to organize, analyze, and share that information of a specific issue to create understanding for yourself or for others. So the web map lets you pull that information together, add analysis, use the right symbology, and configure pop-ups to access additional information through interrogation of the map. So now I can use that web map with a number of commercial off-the-shelf applications from Esri. So these are supported applications that have different missions, perhaps creating situational awareness, providing information to mobile users, allowing editing of data, or embedding maps for other additional content. So why the different apps? Well, these are really oriented to meet specific end user needs, present information in a really mission-focused application for each group of users. So where's the nearest open shelter? So let's start on the left side and we'll walk through this. Shelter data from WebEOC boards. Maybe I want to add traffic in from Esri, real-time traffic. I want to filter this information so I can only see the open shelter data from WebEOC. I'm going to use a simple web application to publish this, and presto, the public can see open shelters as well as the traffic around them. Now the EOC can also reuse that map to track open shelters and see additional information inside the EOC, like capacity status, through something called an operations dashboard. So now I'd like to turn this over for Matt for a brief description of Intermedics and the product WebEOC.
All right, thanks, Ivan. Next slide. All right, so again, my name is Matt Cronin. I'm the product manager for WebEOC from Intermedics. And Intermedics is the leading SIMS provider, crisis information management system provider for emergency management agencies in the U.S. We serve over 600 domestic and international agencies in local, state, and federal markets. Most states use our product, and many federal agencies. We serve over 80 business enterprises in over 28 countries, and really some of the different key areas that we focus on are energy, utilities, infrastructure, including transportation, airlines, and industries of that nature. And we also serve more than 15,000 healthcare providers through Intermedics products and services. Next slide. So WebEOC is our flagship product for emergency management. It's really easy to use. You can train users in up to 15 minutes. It's web-based, so you can access it anywhere with a web browser. It has extended capabilities for mobile users. We have a couple of mobile apps, and even the application natively is, or just on your browser on any mobile device, works very well. And it's one of the key parts of WebEOC is that it's highly configurable. We have this concept of boards where you can create boards in the system for some of the examples Ivan's already mentioned: shelters, road closures, significant events, personnel tracking, resource tracking, mission tracking. The possibilities are endless, honestly, because we have a board editor within the application that allows our clients to build different boards, and then as stated in the next bullet there, those boards can be shared. So any board that's created by one customer can be shared with another customer just by exporting them out of the application and then importing them into the, sharing them with your colleagues and then importing them into the other systems. So there's literally thousands of different boards out there that are available, each with its own unique purpose, and really it provides highly configurable aspect of the application. It's also very extensible. We have a number of add-ons that are available for the product to provide extended functionality. We also have our Fusion solution technology that allows for WebEOC and WebEOC, different WebEOC systems to share information with each other, and then using this integration that we're going to talk today, also would be able to send that data to ArcGIS Online, as we'll describe further in a moment. And then also we have an API that allows for data integration with other third-party applications, and obviously proven success with the hundreds of installations and implementations that we've done worldwide. Next slide. So the WebEOC ArcGIS extension really unleashes the power of these two products, WebEOC and ArcGIS Online. So as we started looking at this integration mid-year last year, both Esri and Intermedics looked at the fact that we serve many of the same organizations, and we kept getting feedback from our customers that highlighted the need for better integration between the product. There were some ability to share information between the product, but really not an off-the-shelf integration that really served the needs of our clients. So the ArcGIS extension is an add-on to WebEOC. It actually is an extension of our WebEOC Mapper Professional product. So it kind of builds on that product within WebEOC. And it provides a seamless integration between WebEOC and ArcGIS, and it's near real-time data sharing. It essentially links data, sends data over every minute. And that can be changed based on the needs of each client, but the default is for data to be shared across every minute. And then administrators or designated users in WebEOC have the ability and freedom to convert any of their WebEOC boards, which can be used for any purpose, and create those as feature services in ArcGIS Online. And as those records in those boards are created by users, they're simultaneously available within ArcGIS Online as those records are being created. Next slide. So, you can use the WebEOC data in tandem with your ArcGIS Online other data sources. So, as we'll show you in the demonstration portion of this, there's such strong value of this once you take your WebEOC data and you're able to bring it into ArcGIS Online and then use it with all the other tools and applications within ArcGIS Online. And the result of this integration is, again, near real-time data availability in ArcGIS Online applications. And unlike many other solutions that have been developed in the past, this can be configured by non-technical staff within minutes without the need of any development effort. And so I think that's a really important item to highlight because, again, there have been different integrations between the two products, but most of those solutions, as you learn more about them, require either they have limitations, technical limitations, or they require a lot of development to be able to use those solutions, whether it be initially or ongoing. This is just a standard off-the-shelf integration that we'll continue to support as time goes on and as the product change and evolve. And really, the key thing we want to make sure is that non-technical staff also have the ability to share data easily between these two products. And we want to be able to access and visualize this data in ArcGIS Online. And really, in the end, we have a common operating picture that's far superior to anything we had in the past using these two solutions together. As one of our clients recently stated, just think of what you can accomplish with the WebEOC integration. The sky's the limit. Next slide. Okay, so now we're going to just do a demonstration. I'm going to do a brief demonstration of WebEOC, and then I'm going to talk through the integration that's been developed. Okay, so if everyone can see my screen now, what we're looking at here is WebEOC. And WebEOC has a concept of boards. So when you open up, and I'm already logged in, obviously, and when I open up my various boards, they open up in tabs here. And as I go in, you have your standard processes, for example, ICS 214, the activity log, and I can go in here and I can log my various activity, and I can mark priority, I can geocode that address, and that's the important part about the integration, is that any records that you want to send over, you need to make sure that those records are geocoded, because those would be the records that would be coming across with this integration. And I'm gonna, I can post this item as significant event. I can browse and upload attachments. And I'm just going to navigate through a few examples here. I can look at my road closures, then I can filter by which ones are open, which ones are closed. And this is, again, this is the concept of boards, is that you can create these different operational processes within the application that you can use for tracking information, and those can be created as needed and modified as needed. So if I wanted to go in our board editor and you wanted to add a field or add a section for some different capabilities, you can just go in the board editor without our involvement and make those changes, and then those changes are going to be reflected on the fly within the application. And you have, with boards, you have display views that are really used to just display and look at data. And then you have input views, which are used to edit that information. And you can see here's an example where I've geocoded, and those would be the records that would, again, come across through this application. And again, if I go into the admin side here and I go under processes, this is going to be where all our boards are listed. And again, it's really as simple as creating the board, giving it a name, and then walking through the steps of building those boards. And then those boards can very easily, we can go into our board editor here, and we can very easily modify those boards, whether it be within our board builder. So I can go in here and just create a column real quick and add a field, and do that very easily. Or I can just, if I'm really advanced and I know coding and that sort of thing, you can go into our advanced editor or our plain code editor, and I can actually make those changes directly within our editor within the board builder there. So that's just a little highlight of WebEOC itself. But again, I want to move on from there and just talk about this specific integration that's an add-on to WebEOC. So once this add-on is installed in the product, you have this new ArcGIS Extension component. And I'm just going to open that up real quick here. And as part of this, basically, there'd be some one-time setup things that we do. So we'd put in some information about WebEOC, the API. It's using our API here. So I put in my URL for my WebEOC, my username that's being used for the integration, password, position, and incident. I can test those to make sure that everything is accurate. And then the next thing I would do is just go into the ArcGIS API side, and I put in my ArcGIS Online URL. So if I'm using ArcGIS Online, then I can put in, that's actually provided for you here. But this should also, is also going to work with the ArcGIS portal along with the portal extension. Or, I'm sorry, ArcGIS server with the portal extension. And so in that case, you would use a local URL here, and you can test that, and it shows you that it's valid. And then you would add your ArcGIS Online user accounts here. And so if I pull up mine here, I can put that in, I can test that, and it shows that it's valid. And so these are, again, one-time setup components. But once that's all set up, and we have documentation, obviously, to walk our clients through that component. But once that's all set up, then you have this concept of creating feature services. And so in WebEOC here, I'm going to just, so we have some examples. We have missions, road closures, shelters, significant events, special events, and special medical needs shelters. And so I'm going to just create a very basic example one and walk you through the steps of doing that. So I create add feature service. And I give it a name, and I select the user account that I want to associate that with, and then I can give it a description. But really, I can just hit save there, and that creates the feature service. The next step is to create the associated layer. So you can see if you go into the layers here, these are all one-to-one with the feature services that I showed a moment ago. And I'm just going to create my layer for the feature service that I just created. Because it's the first one in the list, then it's going to show up first. And just one note is that the boards that you can create feature services for here are, and this is a WebEOC term, but are only mapper-enabled boards. So they're only boards that in WebEOC we've selected to have geocoded records, because if there's no geocoded records, then that data doesn't necessarily need to go over to ArcGIS Online. So that's just one thing to note for our WebEOC users out there. And so I'm going to create my basic board layer here, and I'm just going to give it a layer and call it basic, and I'm going to save that. And then just the final step is I'm going to click this map icon here, and that's going to automatically map my latitude and longitude fields. And then it also pulls in all the fields that are available in the board. This board is very basic, so there's only a few fields, but I can select all. I can then change the field name that's displayed here if I want to change that. I can change the name here, and this will, if you make any changes here, the field name that is represented in ArcGIS Online is going to be the field on the right. If there's certain fields that I don't want data to go across for those particular data fields, then I can just unselect those, and those data fields will not flow over to ArcGIS Online. So I'm going to go ahead and hit save here. And so now I've created my feature service. I can look in my recent history here within WebEOC and in the extension area, and I can see all the activity that's happening. So it's going to show you the last few hundred, items here, and it's going to just show all the different activity that's going on. So, and again, you can tell that this is happening every minute. And that just shows you that the integration's working. If there's any issues, those would be highlighted there. But it's just kind of a tool to help, show you the activity that's going on and highlight if there's any issues. But once those couple steps are done, now there's a live feed between the two applications. So if I go back to the shelters example that I just showed here, this information is maintained in WebEOC. And just to kind of give a scenario, say I'm a county emergency management agency that's using WebEOC, or a state emergency management agencies, they're maintaining their shelter information in their emergency operations center, and they have all their shelters, and they're going in here and they're marking these shelters as, open or closed, and then they're changing the shelter number. So, every 12 hours or 6 hours or whatever the time period is, they're going in here and they're changing these things as they occur in WebEOC. They're saving those, and then that information is just automatically flowing over to ArcGIS Online. So I have my dashboard here. So now I've already logged into ArcGIS Online for sake of speeding this up. But you can see I've pulled up my dashboard here, and I'm in a particular area in the Rochester, New York area, and I can click on any of my shelters here, and I can see their status. I can see the capacity, occupancy, and availability. And then as those items change from open to close, you'll see, and as the numbers change, the numbers will change here, as well as the population. This one here's, and you can just see that change that I just made a moment ago has now came over into ArcGIS Online and has been reflected accordingly. So you could just have this display here up on a screen, and your users in WebEOC are maintaining their shelter information, and as those updates are made, they're reflected in ArcGIS Online automatically, as compared to how many agencies are doing it today, where this is a manual process, right? Where there's some sort of manual component in between WebEOC and ArcGIS Online. So I'm going to stop there and turn it over to Jeff, who's going to really show some other examples of the power of, with some real information that we're also sending over into ArcGIS Online, to show the different tools and capabilities that can be provided.
Great, thanks, Matt. So before we get into seeing a couple of these live, just want to kind of walk through a couple of slides here that show you, what this may look like. So you saw one example of a dashboard that Matt showed. It was the operations dashboard for a shelter configuration scenario. But we also want to highlight here that you can leverage WebEOC boards like significant events or missions, along with other information, like weather, for situation awareness that may be displayed in the front of your emergency operations center. So this is just kind of one example of one of the additional configurations that you can put together using the platform and the WebEOC extension. Another use is to use the same type of information in briefing. So using the Story Map Journal, one of the apps that comes with ArcGIS Online, we can put together a series of pages, if you will, that tell the story of an event or tell the story from kind of a daily operations perspective with all the current data. We can have different pages for, different boards, different aspects of the response, maybe even different pages for the emergency support function. So that's another great way that we can start to leverage the integration here to help, kind of tell those stories. We can also, if you choose, share this information with the public using the public information map, and I'll show you some of the sharing levels for this here in a minute. So in this example, we're showing, some road closure information that may be managed with inside WebEOC boards, but then can be shared with the public to help them keep up to date with what's going on in their jurisdiction. And given that this is running in the cloud, ArcGIS Online is running in the cloud, this is scalable and can stand up to large loads that you may receive during an event or an incident. One of the things that was really kind of compelling to us is that one of the early adopters of this, CalOES, is they're in the beta program for the WebEOC connector. This is an example of one of the operations that together, and notice all the different configurations here. They've leveraged the widget construct within inside the operations dashboard to provide reporting information on various aspects of elements in the board. The number of missions on scene, the number of active missions as you see here, the details. As any updates are made on the WebEOC side, as WebEOC board data is updated, these updates are automatically reflected in this dashboard in real time, given the synchronization that's happening behind the scenes, as Matt mentioned a few minutes ago. Just to know, while we're talking about CalOES, just wanted to note that Esri recently produced this video of how CalOES uses ArcGIS Online to support their other operations. So you should definitely check out this quick 4-minute video to see a compelling use of Esri technology and in support of the emergency management mission at CalOES. So that link will be provided to you after the webcast. And another aspect of this is that WebEOC boards can be accessed in ArcMap. ArcMap just becomes another client to the feature services that are set up with inside ArcGIS Online. So we can view the data here in ArcMap, make high quality printed maps if needed with the data, do further analysis, like buffer or overlay with some of the information from WebEOC boards directly here in ArcMap. So now I want to get in and show you a couple of these things in more detail and give you a sense of what this looks like from the ArcGIS Online side. So first, let me start with inside ArcGIS Online. So this is the ArcGIS Online site that's been set up. This is the site where Matt's information has been written to. And if we go in here and look at things in more detail, what we'll see here in the Central Services group is basically these are the feature service representations of the WebEOC boards. So this is kind of from the Esri perspective, these are is the kind of organic level of information that's being shared. We can now use these feature services in maps and apps to convey the various information. But this is kind of the building blocks of the information that we can use to configure this with inside other applications. So as we showed just a minute ago, we can use the operations dashboard. So here we have a configuration of the operations dashboard with various feeds of information. We've got data coming from USGS and NOAA and other sources of live feed information to show storm reports or weather warnings and watches and that type of thing. And we're seeing this combined with the WebEOC boards data like significant events or missions. So here in this view, I've got different widgets that have been set up that show different aspects of the data. You can see that there's 36 current missions that have been that are in the board now. I can interact with these here on the list. As new updates or new missions are added to the WebEOC board, those will pop up and show up here at the top. I can zoom into these and get more details, even click on the element and log back into the WebEOC side to be able to see more details. So what we're looking at here in this particular pop-up, for example, is all of the information that's contained within inside the WebEOC board is just simply conveyed here in the details of the pop-up. All the elements, all the fields are available to configure for us here and have access to this and being able to see it here in the map. So I can switch to another pane here and see the list of significant events. So in this case, I've got 86 significant events that have been added as a part of the board. As new updates are added from the WebEOC side this morning, from the WebEOC side, we'll see those updates get added here in real time. So yes, that's just one example of configuring the operations dashboard with some of the data coming from WebEOC. So another example that I wanted to show is looking at things from a daily briefing perspective. So here we have an example of showing different aspects. So in this case, on this first page of the map, I've got the details of these significant events. I can interact with these and see and click on them and get more details, and that pop-up information show up. The next page shows missions, and we're just simply highlighting this in a real kind of focus view to see the details of some of the mission data that's included inside here. Next page here is road closures, and this shows the current elements that are coming from that particular board and how that's configured, and again being able to access this information. And hopefully what you're seeing here is just this is the story map journal is a tool that can be used to share information in a real kind of easy to use way. It's almost kind of an app of apps, if you will, to give context to the current situation. So we're looking at different aspects of weather information, where storm reports have happened over the last 24 hours, any recent earthquakes in the area, even bring in information like forecast precipitation. So now we can see where things have where it's going to rain over the next 24 hours and get a sense of how much it will rain. So this is just one of the examples of apps that Ivan was talking about at the beginning that you can start to configure with some of this data. This can be run, directly and you can just kind of advance through the pages, at your own kind of pace if you want, or you can set up this to just run in an autoplay mode. So we can have this running automatically, and maybe we want to have this run unattended, in an unattended mode, and simply flip through the pages on a screen within inside of this particular application. So again, just a different example of how to leverage the integration here, and really how it's an example of how this data is a first-class citizen within inside how WebEOC data and WebEOC boards is a first-class citizen within inside the ArcGIS Online environment. Another example that we wanted to share with you this morning is how you can then convey this information across in a public information map. So if you want to convey mapping information to the public and share that information with them, you can do that with some of the apps and maps that are provided as well. So road closure information, it may be one example of the type of information you want to share with the public to keep them up to date on different events, how incidents may be affecting their lives and the jurisdiction. So this app is actually designed for the public. It's responsive in design and will reconfigure based on the form factor of the device that you're accessing this from. So for example, if you're accessing this information from your smartphone or the like, it works well in that environment. And again, you can choose to share some of the information that you'd like with the public in this information. Maybe you don't want to share all the fields, you just want to share a couple of the fields that are appropriate for public distribution using this this mechanism. So I want to hit a couple of additional, topics here as we go and look at this information. So again, this is an online, environment for GIS, as Ivan mentioned. It really kind of helps lower the bar for entry. You don't have to have software installed on your desktop. You can, simply take advantage of the web and cloud technology and leverage the information this way. So one of the key things that I wanted to highlight here, and this is based on some of the questions that we had received, earlier in the webinar, was talking about things from a sharing perspective. And I wanted to highlight here that inside ArcGIS Online, there's a deliberately simple sharing model, and there's really kind of 4 levels of sharing. So if we talk about that public information map, for example, you can see here its current level of sharing, but I want to hit things kind of at a default view. So if I don't have any of these check boxes checked in this particular case, this is only shared privately. Only I can see this information as the owner of this public information map. I can choose that to share this with a couple of specific groups, and that's another way to control access. So not everyone inside my organization would have access to this information. Only people that are a member of these specific groups. The next level up, the 3rd level up of sharing, is at the organizational level, and this is Intermedics is the title of this particular organization account that we're using for the this demonstration. So again, you have to, in this case, from a sharing perspective, you have to have an account in the system to be able to share this information and be able to not only share but to view this information and have that accessible to you. And then the final level is sharing this publicly. So now this is the checkbox that I would have to hit if I wanted to have this public information map available to everyone. Maybe I want to embed this in our agency's Facebook page or tweet it out, the link. This is how this would be accomplished. And in this case, no credentials would be required to access this information. You just need to make sure that you set up this information appropriately to share that with the public. So this is one of the questions that's kind of come across, and I wanted to make sure to kind of highlight some of the sharing information here during our discussion. And that sharing model also applies to the feature services inside the groups. So again, these are essentially our ArcGIS Online feature services that are coming across from the WebEOC boards. And I just wanted to highlight here, in this case, if we look at road closures, for example, right now it's only shared at the organizational level. So I would also need to make sure that this content is available publicly if that's something I wanted to share with the public. And as Matt showed earlier, there's a couple of different options for where we control the sharing information and what fields we want to make accessible to others from the source WebEOC boards. Maybe there's some boards that you don't want to, or maybe there's some fields that you don't want to share with the public, and that you can control that a couple different places during the process. I also wanted to just give you a sense of how easy this is to put together and get started with. So in this case, I'm just going to go to make a new map here. So I'm going to start with a brand new map. And you can see, again, I'm doing this all on the web, not using any software. So first, maybe I want to bring in some information from kind of a situation awareness perspective. So I can explore some of the live feeds and different content that's made available to us through the Living Atlas and ArcGIS Online. And again, these are feeds that are just included with your subscription. I can add in active hurricanes if there's any, the current wildfire information, short-term storm warnings, recent earthquakes, stream gauges, just a couple of things to add, to my map. So I can do that from the Living Atlas, pane. I can search for other layers that are coming from ArcGIS Online. Maybe I want to look for, weather warnings or different weather elements that I want to add here to the map. So that I can search what's being made available to me from the user community and add in various elements here. So that's the weather warnings and watches, and next I want to look inside my organization. So in this case, I'm going inside my central services group and seeing what WebEOC boards are available here. So I'll simply add the feature services that are inside that group, and really this represents the WebEOC boards that we're bringing across here in this case. So just simply with a couple of steps here, I'm able to add in this information, and right away have the web map set up that I want to use for my information. So just a couple of quick steps. Here we want to spend a little bit more time configuring pop-ups, maybe making any style updates, as Ivan was talking about at the beginning, and some of the powers of the web map there. But just in the interest of time, I'll just leave the map configured in this state. So I'm just going to go ahead and save my map. So this is now my situational awareness map. I'll save that, and this will get saved in my content. I can provide a summary, add in any appropriate tags. Maybe I've got and tag things appropriately, and there we go. Now I've got my web map configured with some live feeds of information, in addition to some of the WebEOC board data that's been made available. Now that I've got my web map constructed, and this is the idea of the web map here is similar to the desktop, but now it's kind of in the online environment. Now that I've got my web map constructed, I can use this inside other applications like the operations dashboard now. So now I'll create a new configuration of an app using the map that I just created here. This is essentially the configuration file, although no coding was kind of necessary to pull this together. Just with a couple of clicks, I can pull together this information. Now I just need to make some decisions on how I want to configure what elements or feature services do I want to use here in constructing my map, and maybe making use of and inside any of the widgets that are available. So now I'm off and running with starting to configure some of these elements inside my operations dashboard. So now I'm going to start to configure some widgets here pretty quickly. So I'll put in a list widget here, and maybe I want to see the elements of significant events. I wanted to make sure those are descending by the entry date, and just a couple of clicks here. If I want to, instead of the address being marked here, I'll have a quick description, and then just note any actions. So maybe when I click on some of these, I want to show the pop-up, pan to it, or select it. There we go. So now I've configured this widget to run the list of updates to this particular board, the significant events board. Next, I want to add in here a companion widget to go with that, to show us some of the summary information. So in this case, I want to show a count of the current number of significant events. And there we go. I've got that count, off and running. So, and then the final step would be here to save this information. So now, as someone that has the permissions to save and configure these applications, now I've configured the operations dashboard, and I can share this with others in my organization or the public for them to be able to get access, to this information. So, and just the one final step here real quick, just wanted to highlight that we can also bring in these feature services and access with these within inside the ArcMap environment as well, and to do, further, analysis like buffer or the like. So that concludes what some of the additional, demonstrations that I wanted to show. And now I'm going to turn it back over to Matt to talk about some of the feedback that they've received from the user community. Matt?
Yep, thanks. Sorry, I was just coming off mute there. I was responding to all the great questions that we got coming in here. We have a lot of questions coming in. A couple that I wanted to touch on real quick, just because they seem to be themes, is what I demonstrated before in WebEOC, that might look different than a WebEOC that you might be familiar with. And so what I demonstrated there was our latest version of WebEOC, which looks and feels a lot different. We introduced this very modern user interface, and that's our 8.0 version. Many of our clients are still on our 7.x version, and so one of the questions that we received several times was whether this integration works in combination with our previous version, and the answer is yes. It works with WebEOC 7.8 plus. So that's just something I wanted to answer verbally, because we received that a number of times. But just to go back to the slide here on this item, basically what we wanted to talk about here is just that, again, I'm the product manager for this integration, and we see this as a starting point. We know that there's some additional capabilities that our clients and Esri clients will want to see with this integration, and that's why we want your feedback. And I just want to touch on some of the things that are limitations today, some of which we have plans to address on the roadmap, and some items we don't have on the roadmap yet, but are definitely very interested in your feedback. So just to run through the list here, this one came over through a question as well. Line and polygon support. So today, WebEOC really supports primarily points. And so if you're adding records in WebEOC, you're associating those records with points. Now, with the next major version of WebEOC and our Mapper product, which this integration uses, we're going to be supporting lines and polygons. And so we're anticipating that to be released in Q3, and so that's going to be a strong component in WebEOC that has been a long time coming. And then after that's released, or very soon after, we're going to be updating this integration to also support that. So then you'd have the ability to develop those lines and polygons in WebEOC, and then have that data come across through the integration in that way. So hopefully that addresses that. So that one is definitely coming in the near future, and we just need to, again, provide that support within WebEOC first, and then we would update the integration to also support that. Another one is on attachments. So that's one that we don't currently support, being able to bring attachments over across through the integration, and it's something we're looking at. Another one that's come up, because again, we've done many different client demos. I've probably done 20 plus by now since the initial rollout at the IAEM conference in November when we first demonstrated this. And these are just things that have come up over those different demonstrations. Another one is the ability to have SAML single sign-on between the products. So if you log into one product, there's they can be authenticated, so you don't have to log into the second product. Today, if you are in WebEOC and then you open ArcGIS Online, you do need to sign in. So there's not necessarily any sort of linking between those accounts, but that's something that has been requested, and we're looking at that one. Another one is on bidirectional data integration. So today, this integration is a one-way data flow from WebEOC to ArcGIS Online. A lot of times we'll have a link within the pop-up that allows you to jump back to WebEOC, then you'd be able to log in and update the data. But we're not doing bidirectional data flow today. It's one direction today from WebEOC ArcGIS Online. And then the final is the direct linking to records. So when I am linking back, I'm not linking to just WebEOC as a whole. I'm linking back to that specific record, and that's one we're closely looking at as well. So these are a couple things, the things that have come up most common. But as I said, we want your feedback, and my email is going to be at the end of the slide. If you have any feedback or want to send that in, certainly pass that on. And also, you know, if you want to ask through the chat here, if you want to send anything that way, that's another method that you can send across your feedback. But we definitely want to know where the gaps are, because again, we look at this as a first step and first version, and we definitely see that we're going to be adding some features and capabilities, you know, as time goes on between these two products. All right.
Great, thanks, Matt. Just a couple of other quick notes here in closing before we get to some questions at the end. From an ArcGIS for Emergency Management Solutions perspective, nothing new, you know, to report this month. Make sure to check the What's New page. Also, the recording of their the webinar last month when they talked about the new hazard and mitigation tools is now available. And next month, they'll put the team will provide an update on their new situation awareness templates. As we always do as a part of these webcasts, we like to highlight examples from the user community, and we've got a group within ArcGIS Online where we highlight some of those examples. Alabama National Guard has provided a great, you know, preparedness example and some of their, you know, hurricane preparedness plans. NOAA's got a story map tour of some imagery and videos from the tornado that hit the Tulsa, Oklahoma area just a couple of days ago. Also wanted to highlight a new story map from the our Esri Story Maps team on the refugee crisis called the Uprooted. And finally, a mention of the new Highfield Open Data site from DHS and a lot of the great Highfield Open data that is now available to the user community. Also, make sure to note to our deprecation plans and retirement plans for some of our older live feed services. Make sure you're using the versions that are coming from ArcGIS Online, and just a quick reminder about that. And in fact, a couple of new feeds went live last night as a part of ArcGIS Online. We've added, you know, weather warnings and watches, provided buoy observations to the current wind and weather layer, added wind probability to the active hurricanes for the upcoming hurricane season, and also wanted to note that NOAA has released a new set of, you know, map services that are available and include things like, you know, snow and other more detailed weather data. So I'd encourage you to check those out, and we'll be adding some of those and hopefully get NOAA's help in adding those to the Living Atlas here shortly. So back over to you, Ivan, to wrap us up.
Perfect, thank you, Jeff. So what we want to do is talk about some next steps before we go to questions. So the first thing we would encourage everyone to do is explore the resources that are presented in today's webinar. Again, those resources will be coming out shortly after we finish up. We wanted to let everyone know the next webinar will be on Thursday, May 5th at 9 a.m. Pacific. That'll be on getting started with situational awareness solutions. Again, as we've said several times, please contact any and all of us with questions, ideas, and suggestions you have. You're also welcome to follow us on social media. And we've got a couple of great, you know, events coming up we want to make sure everyone knows about. One of those is the Intermedic Summit coming up in May in Colorado. And Esri has our National Security and Public Safety Summit and our user conference in San Diego in late June. So with that, we'll continue to open the floor for questions. Oh, sorry, one more thing. We've got the additional public safety webinars coming up. So these are a great way, if not for you at your organization, you may want to help socialize these with some of your peers or counterparts in other agencies that this may fit for as well. All right, so at this point, we'll go into questions. Looks like we've got a good number still coming in.
Ivan, would you like me to just talk through some of the ones, you know, I have a number that I've responded to that I think would be valuable to the group. Did you want me to run through this?
That sounds great, Matt, if you don't mind.
Okay. One of the questions has been around that I've received several times is around, licensing for this integration. So typically for an integration like this, we would have a separate license costs and integration costs. We're waiving what we would normally have as a cost for our clients, and so the only aspects that would be, you'd have to have WebEOC for it, obviously, and then you need to have Mapper Professional because it builds on Mapper Professional, and then there's a nominal maintenance cost for having this extended capabilities, but there's no license cost which we would normally have as part of that. But the question on cost was asked several times here. A couple other examples I already answered on what WebEOC version is supported, and that's again 7.8 or later. One of the questions was whether this works with our Mapper Lite product, and the answer is that no, it doesn't work with our Mapper Lite product today. It uses some of the extended capabilities that are part of our Mapper Professional product. One of the questions was related to the future of our Mapper Professional product, and I just stated that we're actually doing some significant work on that, and we'll be releasing some of those features will be demonstrated at our conference, and then that will be released in Q3. One of the questions that was good was on incidents. So WebEOC has this concept of incidents where data is stored in different incidents. Even though you configure the incident in admin, that's just kind of a setup component. But once that's configured, all the data comes across, and the incident filtering is actually done on the ArcGIS side. So we're not limiting the data, and we're not requiring extra steps for configuration. Every time you create a new incident, that information is coming across automatically, and then would just be filtered by the person on the ArcGIS side. And I'm sorry, I'm just reading through a couple more of these. Were there any other ones, Brenda, that came up still outstanding that you see?
Matt, there's one question about using their own server.
For ArcGIS Portal?
Can we use our own ArcGIS server? So what's the question?
Jeff, do you want to speak to that one?
So yeah, several of you have asked about how to use this with your own server or with Portal for ArcGIS. And so the initial implementation here is for ArcGIS Online. We're looking at doing some of the final testing to certify this with Portal. But I think that's, and Matt, please confirm that's something that Intermatics is looking at, is making sure that this works for Portal as well, and we're just doing some final testing there.
Yeah, so there's a commitment from our side to make it, as Jeff said, we're going through some final testing, but we have a commitment to have this work with Portal as well. So that's definitely going to be supported in the very near future.
Okay. Yep, go ahead.
One question was, can a map view show data from multiple boards? And the answer to that one is absolutely. I guess maybe we didn't show some examples, but you can bring any number of boards into the map and board data into the map, as well as Jeff mentioned, other weather and other types of information into there. So certainly there's a capability to support multiple boards in one single map view.
Outstanding. Well, we've got a few more questions, and what we're happy to do is respond to those people who asked those questions offline and individually. And again, we encourage anyone else who has additional questions to please contact us. We thank you very much for your time today, and I hope that this was helpful.